Hi everybody, welcome to DIYModLoader version 1.5.34. What I'd like to walk you through today is the newest version of DIYModLoader and a new feature which is Mod Pack Options. One thing you'll notice if you take a look at here, first of all I've got it set up already with the generic setup. You'll notice a new tab called Options. Pretty much everything's grayed out, you can't do anything with it. There's nothing in the drop downs. Alright, what you're going to do is from your main page you're going to choose the mod that you want to create options for, and you're going to click on Manage Options. It's going to add that drop down to the name and enable a couple of your buttons. It's just to give you guys some background information. Gamer, let's see if I can get this stupid thing to move. There we go. Gamer, when he created his mod pack, is basically a gigantic folder of mods. There's no installer. He's got some instructions here on which files to delete if you want to disable something, and he's very good about supporting his mod pack. In fact, he's too good at supporting his mod pack sometimes, and trust me, this is not a slight on him, but we get a lot, and this particular mod pack is it's a couple hundred pages long in the forum. You'll get different people asking him the same questions over and over and over again. How do I disable this? How do I disable that? What do I, and that's the main reason why I created this option system, is so that he didn't have to answer questions like that. And for that matter, nobody should have to answer questions like that. You set up your mod pack, you use DIYModLoader, and people can just enable or disable things with a simple click of the mouse. So let's get back to it. Okay, so you've clicked Manage Options, you've added it here. What you're going to first do is, there's two different types of option groups, and you've seen something similar to here. You have multi and single. And basically what this means is, if you have a single option group, that means you can only choose one thing out of those options. A multi-option group, you could select multiples. So let's click cancel this. I want a multi-select group, and I want to say, and just give it a clear title because this is what's going to be on the screen. So let's say, check items that you want to disable. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a disable group. And click OK. There we go. Multi. Check items that you want to disable. And if you accidentally make it a multi and you want it single, no problem. Select it. Click change. It makes it single. Click it. Check it again. It's back to multi. You can do this on the fly whenever you want. So let's add an item to it. Select it. Click add item. And what you're going to see is a pop-up that basically says, alright, we're going to either add a folder or we're going to disable a folder or file. And taking a look back at his mod pack and the instructions, let's see, actually the first thing I want to do, I want to disable the sites. So we make this mod pack doesn't have any sites, or I want to make it so it does not have a site so that we can add our own sites. So from here it says GUI scale form crosshairs and gun constraints, GUI scale form DM, scripts client mod gun constraints. Okay, let's add some files to this. And basically what we're going to do is click disable file or folder. We're going to then start expanding. It's already going to look into the folder where the mod is created. And we want to open up the res mods, 9.2, GUI, scale form, and I want to check all of these crosshairs because remember, we don't want those. I want to check off gun constraints. And I want to disable the entire DM folder. If you want to disable a whole folder, you do not have to select each file in the folder. You can just select the root itself. You don't have to go through and check each one. But we only want the crosshairs and gun constraints. Let's go over to scripts, client, mods, and per his instructions, GUI gun constraints, and sites just for good measure. And I believe that was it. Let's take a look. GUI scale from crosshair, gun constraints, GUI scale from DM, scripts client mod, gun constraints. Okay, so that's it. Click OK. Now let's give it a name. No site. GHT. That's it. Click OK. Now we've added an item called no site. And if you click down here, it's got a bunch of information and it tells you all the files. Now from here, you can actually delete one of these files if you accidentally put it there. Or you can click on no site and you can add an item. You can click any of these items here and rename it, like we want to here say rename that to no Jimbo. Piece of cake. And let's see. Now, what we also, there's a new feature here also that we can add pictures. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to give, so when people, oh, by the way, let's take a look at, when you're back at the main page, you will not see all those files listed. You don't need to. All you need to know is if you check that, it disables it. And also another feature of this is, oops, back up. There we go. If you select anything in this tree, it selects everything behind it. So if we click multi-check items you want to disable, or excuse me, if you click on the no Jimbo site, it just checks everything else before that. And just as the rest of the mods, if you deselect a box, then nothing underneath it, or what are called child boxes, will be run when you do hit the load mods button. So it's just a safety check, so you don't have to go clicking and unclicking everything. You can actually deselect options and none of your options will run. So let's go back to the option page. So let's add a picture. So we want to add it to the no Jimbo site. We click preview pic. I want to go to my pictures where I have a Jimbo site right there. There we go. We've added Jimbo site to here. And the way you see it is on the main page, you move your cursor over Jimbo's and there it is. And the picture does scale. So if you made this full page, you can see right here the corner of the picture. Obviously for bandwidth I'm keeping this down, but when it's full page you'll see much bigger pictures, so that scales. So let's go back to options. Let's say you wanted to add a folder. Let's say you were adding some functions. Alright, well, Gamer has some optional mods. Let's go back up to that. Where's that at? There we go. He's got some optional stuff. Now the bare bones patch is a standalone thing. You don't actually apply it to your current download, but the disable stats and colorblind patch are items that you can put on his current build. And what you want to do is download, save them, and extract them. And the place you extract them to, it's very simple. This is our demo folder. This is where I have Gamer's Mod Pack. Remember we talked about repositories before. In the repository, you're used to seeing res and res mods. Well, in DIYModLoader, as soon as you start creating mod options, it's going to create an options folder along with your res and your mod, whatever is in the Gamer's Mod Pack or anything else. Inside that, this is where you want to put your folders that you're going to add. So we can add functionality. So what this allows us to do is, instead of Gamer, he's done, like I said, done great. He creates 3 separate mod packs for 3 separate sites. Well, instead of doing that, you can have one mod pack. You can have all the sites in one mod pack. It also allows you to do 4 sites, 5 sites, 10 sites, however many sites you want, you put them in there. Now, the beauty of this is if you don't want to use DIYModLoader, you just want to take these res and res mod folder and drop them in your current game, then it runs like a normal mod pack. There's no changes, there's no nothing. It just runs as a full mod pack, and there's no problems whatsoever. All changes that happen, everything that DIYModLoader uses for these options is in this options folder. By the way, that pic that we saved, it's in this folder here. So that's where that's saved. So everything that goes in here, the sites, the disable stats, the colorblind. Now I'll show you how to add those. So what we want to do is we want to go back up to Jimbo's mod site. We want to see if we're going to add an item. Now this time when you clicked add an item, you're going to notice that it already put Jimbo's site down here at the bottom of the name because it knows you're adding it to an existing item. And we want to click add a folder. And we want to click the colorblind patch folder. So we just want to click the entire mod structure that's in this colorblind patch. And we're going to click OK. And that's it. So we're going to click OK. And we just added a color. Oh, wait a minute. We didn't want to do that. We wanted that as a separate thing. So we're going to select it and delete it. Now let's go back up to, we're going to select another multi-select group. We're going to add it. We're going to say this is add-ons, because that's what they are. And we're going to add an add-on item. And we're going to go back to this folder. We've seen it before. We're going to click colorblind. And we're going to say add folder. We're going to add the colorblind patch. And we're going to click OK. Adds the colorblind patch. Now, if you're wondering how the colorblind patch is structured, it should be structured just like the rest of your mods. In the colorblind patch should be a res folder, a res mods folder. Any additional folders that you add, that you want to add features, they should be structured just like their own mini mod. They should have their own res and their own res mods, whatever's appropriate. You should, as soon as you hit whatever the title of the folder is, the first thing you should see is not configs or something else like that. It has to represent res and res mods. Otherwise, it won't work, because how's it supposed to know where it's supposed to go? All right. So, colorblind name, colorblind patch, that's the only folder we want to add. Click OK, and there we go. We've added colorblind. Let's add a picture to it. Now, World of Tanks, or excuse me, DIYModLoader remembers the folder you were in, and I happen to have, do I have a colorblind? Yes, right there. So it's colorblind. Now, if we go to the main page, we'll see multi-add-ons, colorblind, and sure enough, there's the picture that goes with colorblind. So you see, it's very easy to add photos to the mods, and it shows that there. Now let's add sites. Now this one is going to be a single select group, because you could have multiple sites, but you really only want to add a single site. So we're going to single group. We're going to say sites, and I want to say add item. And I have one optional site I've already preloaded. Roughnecks. I'm going to add a folder. Now what I did is I created, you can create, like I said, we talked about before, like a colorblind patch where you have to have underneath that res and res mod. Well, it all depends on which folder you select. Like sites, I have a couple of other folders in there. So it's the folder that you select that has to be set up with a res mod and res. So I click Roughneck, I click OK. It says I'm adding folder sites Roughneck, and I click OK. And just as before, I have a picture, so preview pic, that one. And go back to the main page, we see immediately. Now here's our single sites. Now you notice the picture stays until you move over something that doesn't have a picture, and then the picture goes away. Roughnecks, there's my Roughnecks site. So if I choose this, it'll add the Roughnecks folder. Now, what you're going to want to do for safety, or actually to make sure, you have to have this no Jimbo site before you add the Roughneck. But what's actually easier is, hey, why don't we make it so that when you add Roughneck, even if you forget to disable the site here, whatever you have here will automatically take care of it. So if you go to Options, go to Roughnecks, we want to add item. Actually, we want to delete the Roughneck folder, because that's the last thing we want to do. So we're going to redo it. We're going to Roughnecks, add item. And the first thing we're going to do is, just like the Jimbos, we're going to disable the existing site and then add the other one on top. So, GUI, scale form, all this crosshair stuff, and gun constraints, and DM, and scripts, clients, mods, and gun constraints, and sites. That's it. So click OK. Now we can click over and add folder, sites, Roughneck. You'll see it's at the bottom here, so it's the last thing it'll do. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to keep these from loading when Jimbo's gets loaded, and then it'll load Roughnecks on top of that. The picture stayed there because we didn't actually delete the word Roughnecks, because that's what the picture is attached to. We can see that by right there. We just hover over Roughnecks, and there it is. So now, through the magic of television, we are now, I'm going to skip ahead to a fully decked out, fully documented Jimbo's mod pack with all of the options. So I've added patches. I've added the choose an optional site for Roughnecks. And we see this on the main site. There's Roughnecks. We see that. We got 2 patches. We got the colorblind patch. And we have all the options. The Jimbo's site, anti-recoil, accurate damage indicator, XVM, max far plane, all the different options. Down here, auto telescope. This gets more questions from more people than I care to even think about. For some reason, people just can't handle this doing it for them. They get what are called brain farts. Their brain just stops functioning. Well, now all they need to do is, remember, read the instructions. because it all depends on what you do. So choose feature to disable. So you just select it to disable it. When you load the game, when you hit load mods, it will not load the auto telescope. Same thing with Team HP pools, HD icons, every documented feature that Gamer put in there. Now what this does is this opens up some really good possibilities for Gamer to make an even better mod pack. He can start adding multiple sites. And remember, this does not affect the mod pack as a whole. You can still, anytime you want, take this mod pack, download it, and extract the res and res mods to your game folder, and it will not affect anything, even if you don't use DIYModLoader. It just adds such a level of flexibility. If you do use it, it's completely up to you. So, some of the things Gamer could do. One of the things, his XML for the interface is the Asian server. Makes perfect sense. He's an Asian server player. I don't expect him to create, he already does 3 mod packs. I don't expect him to do, 12 mod packs, one of each for each of the different servers. Well, what this allows him to do is to add an XML and actually add another group here of individual XMLs. So it could say, it's called localization, server localization. So it could say US or North America, Europe, Russia, Korean, whatever server comes out, he can add an XML, create it as a option folder. Remember, it'll have to be in the same folder structure as before, where it belongs, and it will load that instead of the Asian server. He can load multiple sites. He can load multiple skins. He could it's just a plethora of information. It's all drag and drop. It's pretty straightforward. I do support DIYModLoader a lot. I do keep an eye on the site. Not 24 hours a day, obviously, got to sleep, but a good 12 hours a day at least. So if you guys have any questions, please drop it in the forum for DIYModLoader on the North American server, or drop it in the website, the Wix website, and I hope to see you on the battlefield. Oh wait, I almost forgot. 2 more features. Keep res mods. What this is basically somebody had a request and they had said they use a pre-packaged mod loader that does, it has most of what they want, but they have a lot of other stuff they wanted to add. They had lots of skins they wanted to add. They had some sites that they wanted to replace with it. But the way that their mod pack installer works is it, just like DIYModLoader, it wipes out your res folder and installs what it came with. And then if you used DIYModLoader, it would wipe out that mod pack and install over the top of it. Well, before you click load mods, if you select keep res mods, then it will not delete the existing res mods. It will only load what you're telling it to load on top of the existing res mod folder. And in partner with this, there's also a clean res mods button over here on the right hand or left hand side. And what that does is very simple. It just deletes your entire res mod folder and doesn't do anything else. Now it'll replace it with blank res mod, but that's it. It won't refresh your res folder. It won't do all the normal stuff that you would see when you hit restore watt. Doesn't do that. It just wipes out res mod and puts a blank version in place. It's kind of a quickie. If you just want to do that, that's what you want to use over here. And that is it. Just as before, the MIF files doesn't really do anything right now. It's some experimentation I'm doing right now. The Watt support site, you can go here. That is the North American server site where I support DIYModLoader. And then my website for World of Tanks, I'm starting to at least try to build this up as a good support site with lots of videos, and we'll see how it goes. And that is it. That's for the new features. Big feature, options for mod packs, and I'll see you guys in the battlefield. Bye-bye.